Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS. My name is Kev Dan. I got two of the most awesome co-hosts here with me. As always, Jared and David. Gents, I bet you're having a great night. Broncos have been making some news. It's fantastic. We're going to break it all down. But first, guys, remember, if you guys want something to get you through this offseason, you are going to want some of this Breckenridge Distillery 5280 Broncos blend. The blue bottle, the orange bottle, whichever you choose. This stuff is delicious. If you're sitting there saying, I don't like whiskey, well, that's okay. Nobody's perfect, and you're definitely in the wrong. But Breckenridge does have you covered with the Broncos Blizzard vodka as well. So, if you're waiting for that last drip, maybe it's time to go get a new bottle. But we got a lot of Broncos stuff to talk about today. So first off, Jared, how you doing, buddy?
I'm over my roller coaster of emotions, but I'm gonna recap them with you guys here today, just so that I don't have to do it alone. But overall, I'm doing pretty well. I'm ready for Broncos football to be back, though.
Oh, dude, you're telling me, David, how you doing, man?
I was just thinking something along the same lines today, Jared. It was like, man, all right, free agency is done. At the very least, I'm like ready for the draft now. Like, I feel like the Broncos have made the big signings they're going to make in free agency. And now it's like, oh, man, I want to see what that draft has for us. But, that's another 6 weeks. And I shouldn't be that excited for the draft because, in a sense, that means, like, it's the draft and then it's training camp. So you got a nice 3-month wait. And so, let's kind of slow everything down but speed everything up at the same time. You know what I mean?
At the same time. I love it. I love it. Well, guys, look, lots of player moves, signings, releases, all that stuff. We're going to break it all down. But let's start by first reminding everybody who's watching not only to hit that share button, hit that like button, subscribe, follow, all that stuff, but post your comments, post your questions. We want to hear from you guys. But let's start by talking about the players that we lost versus starting, let's break ourselves down and then build ourselves back up.
You really want to start this right now, Kev?
Yes, I do.
Is that how you want to start this?
Rip the Band-Aid off before you get any drunker, Jared.
Exactly.
That's actually probably a good call. That's a good call. Yeah.
So here's the thing. We're going to start with the player that, obviously a lot of people are very upset by. Look, when you're a player with a team for several years, you basically become a household name within, Broncos country. Everyone knew him, loved him. It really hurts to lose a player like that. And I do believe this is a guy that really put his heart on the line and played his best every single game. And so, guys, I don't know how to tell you this other than, I don't know who you think I'm talking about. Huh?
They're going to bamboozle me with a Riley Dixon, aren't you?
I sure am.
Sure is.
Riley Dixon,
he's going to do it.
Guys, is gone, and I'm brokenhearted every time.
Typical
I don't know
Kevin
who you thought I was talking
punter.
about. I don't know who you thought I was talking about, but yes, Riley Dixon is gone. I think we'll survive. However, Jared, I think we need to turn this over to you to talk about and share your thoughts on Javonte, however you want to call him. David's like, I'm out. You got a whole list of things, man. I love it. Javonte Williams, over to you, man.
I'm not going to bore you with the long list of things that I have, what I wanted to say, because I think I'm over it. I think I really am. I went through some tough times. We all kind of saw it coming. I do want to say, for all those Javonte Williams haters out there, for some reason, I don't know how we got such a bad rep. Like, he was the one that was the reason why our running game wasn't working. I've said it over and over again. It clearly wasn't him. He's not the reason our running game wasn't working. But I do understand that we got two young guys on the team. It's cheaper to keep him. Javonte was a free agent. Let him play the field. He only got a 1-year gig over in Dallas to kind of a prove-it year over in Dallas. I'm sad to see him go because I think I'm still living a couple of years ago prior to his ACL or MCL injury, whichever one it was.
Yeah.
And he was just a monster. And I bought this jersey because I saw a couple games where he was just rolling over. I think that year he had the most yards after contact, had the most bowl overs. Like, every time he got touched, he was getting another 2 to 3 yards. And I was really excited for that kind of player because we in Broncos country haven't had that type of player. Even if you look back on like Clinton Portis and Terrell Davis, they weren't bowling balls. They were just quick guys. they weren't rolling over people. So it was nice to have someone that could get those yards after contact. And we just didn't get that until, and then he got injured and all that other stuff. Last year, he got a really bad rap for whatever reason. Again, I understand. Got him on a young contract. We got McLaughlin on a young contract, and there's talk about going out and getting somebody in the draft. And this is a pretty heavy running back draft. So yeah, let him play the field. If he decided to go to Dallas, he decided to go to Dallas. But I am sad to leave. I do think that his best football wasn't done, and I feel like he's going to go and show that. Give him a shot. He's going to go and show us up a little bit. How he shouldn't let him go. But it was a free agency move. I think the decision was, hey, it's your free agency. If you want to play the free agency, get it. This is what we'll offer you if you don't. And he went out and played free agency and got a 1-year deal with Dallas. So I am a little bit sad. I went through a roller coaster of emotion yesterday. But I will tell you what, and we'll get into that later in the show. The Dre Greenlaw, as soon as that popped and that hit, I was like, okay, not as sad anymore. I'm okay. I'm all right.
Yeah.
But we'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit. But yeah, the defense is really what stacked up. David, did you leave on purpose to not hear my soapbox about Javonte Williams?
Yeah, I was tired of it already. I'm past it. I'm letting the past be the past, Jared. And I love you and I love your jersey, but go on.
I sent my 26 pages to David to reread, and it came back like my middle grade English red everywhere. Just
red.
Yeah.
Well,
that's not a
sentence.
The
phallic symbols didn't help.
Well, the phallic symbols, that was immature, and I take responsibility for that. I own that. But there were a lot of words, Jared, that I would say, even on this podcast, which we have acknowledged in the past is not family friendly, that I don't think you can say on the internet. There's a lot of things you can say on the internet, Jared. You can say anyway. About Javonte, and I'm sure we've probably covered it. Jared has probably said it in more ways than I ever could. I think everybody who's been watching the podcast knows my feelings about this. It was time to have a fresh start for everybody involved. I feel for the man like no other, because man, that knee injury that he suffered, it's not just like, I want everybody in Broncos country to realize it's not just like an ACL tear. Like Javonte Williams had a catastrophic knee injury 2 years ago. And the fact that he never got right again with the Broncos, it's not I don't want anybody to think of it as a personal failing on him or something that he didn't do correctly. It was just that bad. And it's not to say that his career is over. He might revitalize himself with the Cowboys. We might really regret letting him go someday. But I also think at the very least, Jared, it's one of those signings we've talked about before where it was time for everybody to have a fresh start. And, best of luck to Javonte going forward. We'll all be rooting for him. But I am excited to see where the Broncos go with the running back room from here now.
I kind of said it before. I kind of alluded to it, but I really want to drive home. Like, what really got me at ease, if you can call where I'm at right now at ease, on this whole thing is it was kind of a perfect storm for Javonte. Right, you had these young guys in Estime and McLaughlin who had decent seasons, right? They didn't get as many touches, but they had. You have a really deep running back class in this year's draft, and he on his free agent, kind of like this perfect storm of things. And yeah, I mean, I really do wish him best in Dallas, and I hope he goes for 1,000 yards and revitalizes his career. But he did sign only a 1-year deal. It's a prove it year deal. Although I was looking at Dallas's other signings, I know this isn't the Dallas Cowboys, but all of their deals were 1 year. I think it's a prove it deal for the Jerry Jones. Like, sign everybody to a 1-year deal. They don't do it, they're gone.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I don't know. That sounds like you're giving Jerry Jones a lot of credit, considering he won't even put like $5 blinds up over the windows in a stadium to keep the sunlight out of his players' eyes. But
no,
that's a good strategy if that's the case. Like everyone's on a contract year, time to put up or shut up. So maybe that very well could be the case. Hey, Sean, I see your comment there. We will talk about the Broncos signings and additions later on. So hold on. We have you in mind for sure. Couple questions here. James, no, we're talking about players we've lost and stuff, but is David Njoku somebody that you're even interested in at this point? And wouldn't it be worth trading any of our draft capital over to them for a guy like that?
to me, honestly, that's the market you're kind of in now. And whatever happens with Evan Ingram happens with Evan Ingram. But outside of that, and with Jawan Johnson re-signing with the Saints, I think those are the Broncos' 2 free agent targets at the position this year. And so if you're not going to do that, you're going to have to trade for somebody. And it's going to be in the neighborhood of Mark Andrews from the Ravens, or Dallas Goedert from the Eagles, or David Njoku from the Browns. And if you want a veteran player at that position before the draft, going into the draft, that's probably what you're going to have to do now. Again, unless the Evan Ingram thing kind of turns around, and at this point, I'm not all that encouraged by the latest news on that. So,
no,
yeah. Oh, we clearly know where we want to go with in the draft or the rest of free agency. Tight end, running back now, and tackle. Right, we were talking about David is a big fan of back for another year, which is huge. Or a couple of years, so which is big. It's a big re-signing, but we do got 3 kind of needs. I want to call them needs, right? We have availability to use those, and we can get a running back in the 3rd or 4th round. But if you're looking at what we're doing for that first round, a lot of that might come afterwards. And for all we know, Sean Payton might not have a high expectation for tight end. Might not have this thing in mind where he's like, I'm going to get the tight end super involved this year. Maybe that's in his game plan. I don't know if Evan Ingram didn't fall to us. I don't think we're gonna fork the money for him. I think that's really the big part of that.
Yeah. And that's what Mike Kliss was saying earlier too, on Denver TV here earlier. Specifically, was about Ingram's price. The Broncos had basically like a day and a half visit with him to start free agency, but they didn't come to terms on a contract, and that led to Ingram leaving and taking visits elsewhere. It still could turn out that he just doesn't think his price. He thinks his price is something different than it actually is. But maybe that leads him to come back. But if he also gets the money that he's chasing somewhere else, I would definitely expect him to sign there. And that's just the way it is. I think, Jared, to your point, that I do think that Sean Payton would value having a tight end that can do it all. And obviously every team in the league wants a tight end that can do it all. Every team in the league wants the next Rob Gronkowski, who is as effective as a blocker as he is as a receiver. And it's just not, it's not a common thing to find. I do think that would be a very good thing for the Sean Payton offense to have, especially with how much they like to change personnel groups and how much they like to disguise what they're doing based on personnel groups. But it might be just that kind of case of they try to find that in the draft this year, and they keep taking swings at it in free agency and in the draft in future years. It just might not be the position that we find the home run answer for this offseason.
And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Look, we only have $40 million in cap space. And I know $40 million is about $40 million more than we had last year, right? Right. But that doesn't mean we need to go break the bank. I've heard people talking about all the moves that the Patriots have done, and are they the winners of free agency? Maybe, you could say that, but they had a lot of money, and they also have a ton of things to fix over there in New England, right? So not just to say that I'm wearing blue and orange goggles over here. I mean, look, I am, but at the same time, you look at what the Broncos have done movement wise that, it doesn't scream desperation. They're being very strategic. They're being very smart. They're not just going to bring in a free agent because he is well known, whatever. We're going to pay top dollar, right? We're going to bring in the people that we think are best for us. Right. And we'll talk about that more coming up here. So again, Sean, hold on. We'll talk about your guy over there. But overall, I've been really, I'd say impressed with the Broncos free agency strategy. This isn't a Super Bowl or bust year. This is let's build the team to, maybe make a deeper playoff push, but there's no reason to go out there in a free agency class, of people that, there's not a ton of all-star names, right? Once you sign the first few here and there in each position group, that's it. And after that, you're kind of looking for next best available. So, I think what the Broncos have done so far have been pretty good. And I'm glad that we're holding on to some of that cap space, but we're also making other moves. Look, I want to hear from you guys. One of the other names that we've lost, Cody Barton, who, look, we saw him, in step up in several games, right? He was a name that you heard, maybe not every single week, but when you did hear him, he was coming up with some big plays. Any thoughts on, and I know we haven't talked about the additions to the linebacker room yet, but when we were talking about losing something like Cody Barton, do you guys have any concerns with losing him?
No, we had Cody Barton at home, and Cody Barton at home was Alex Singleton. And so we still got him under contract. And to me, Cody Barton did some nice things, but I think the Broncos, what I'm really encouraged by with our free agent additions on defense so far is that they match up with the weaknesses that the Broncos displayed on defense in the crucial games at the end of the season and in the playoff game too, which was that the middle of the defense was soft. The inside linebackers and at safety. And we've talked a little bit about the interior defensive line, and we'll do that more as the offseason goes along. But having really physical presences at safety now and at linebacker now makes things a little different, I think, as far as the evaluation of that defense. Barton, he did. You're right, Kev. He came up with some big plays at times over the course of the season. But I also do think he was a little bit of a contributor as far as that softness in the middle of the defense that we were talking about. I think he was an average linebacker. And when we talk about upgrades, I think we'll talk about the Broncos getting markedly better at that position.
Yeah.
Yes, in one aspect. But, he was really he really showed up in the last end of that season, right? And you got to give it to him. He really was playing well. And I really thought he was going to be someone that was going to be build it, having him next to Trey Greenlaw would have been nice, but it is what it is, and things kind of fall. And that's kind of where at first I was like, we can get another linebacker that's comparable. And then we got someone, like you said, significantly better, all around, injury history aside, significantly better as a whole. So, obviously overall at the end of the day, we're super happy.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to bring Spotty up. Spotty, what do you think about everything that we've been talking about? I'll just hand this over to you, man. What are your thoughts?
Hey,
What's up, man?
I'm gonna leave Jared alone. And him and his Javon Bay. Okay, I'm gonna let it go. It's fine. It's not like running back is a dying breed in this NFL. So, though, I want to kind of mention about Cody Barton. You say Cody Barton was really good, but I'm very curious to think if you believe if he was really good or the scheme that we put him in was really good.
Yeah, I'd say,
play that with literally any player.
What it does is we're really good at our scheme and we're very good at hiding what you're bad at. So I think we put Cody Barton in like the best spot possible. And then if you could only imagine what it's like putting somebody who is more athletic, more physical in that same role.
Yeah. Completely agreed. Definitely want to hear your thoughts on Riley Dixon there, Spotty, but we can save that for later. We don't have to talk about that again.
Whoa. If you guys don't think that he wasn't the MVP of the Broncos' first 6 games, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, that's true.
Some of those coffin corners really helped the Broncos defense out because we saw later in the year what ended up happening to our defense when we were playing a field position battle.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yep. So, it's one of those things where obviously the Broncos think that, when it comes to the special teams, and we got basically a whole new special teams coaching staff, more or less. They definitely have some things in mind, and we're just gonna have to wait to see what that is. I don't think they're going to draft a punter in round 1 with pick 20, but you just never know. Crazier things have happened.
Hey, man, the last punter to be drafted in the first round is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's true.
Seabass.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, you just don't know. Another guy that we lost there, Zach Wilson. over to the Dolphins. So Broncos possibly in the market for a new QB3, which if that's our quarterback battle this year, okay. That's not something I'm going to be stressing over, right? But best of luck over to Zach Wilson over there, guys. So,
well, I'll tell you what. Just while we're on the quarterback position, find somebody who loves you the way that Sean Payton loves Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, dude.
Another big money contract for Jarrett Stidham to come back. 2 years, $12 million total. To come back and be the backup quarterback. It's like, all right, I know the salary cap keeps going up and whatever, but that's still like pretty decent backup quarterback money for somebody who isn't going in to training camp, like even as a remote possibility as the starter this year.
That's a dream job, right? Like backup quarterback, third string, make money, don't have to do
make money, just kind of hang out.
And to the Zach Wilson,
when the guys need it.
Right. And to the Zach Wilson point, like, good for him. Because you know what? He's going to start 4 to 6 games next year, backing up to Tua Tagovailoa. And he's in an offense with Mike McDaniel that could really kind of help him show somebody something, So good for him.
Yep. Well, guys, before we move over into, it looks like David or Jared, you're trying to say something. Sorry, man. Go for it. Okay. Before we move on over into the players we have gained, and we can really start looking at, what the Broncos have done to build themselves up and how that's going to impact their draft strategy. Let's just recap the losses here. Obviously, Javonte Williams, the big name that's gone. Zach Wilson, Cody Barton, gone. Riley Dixon, gone. So what are your guys' overall impressions of those? Are those any guys that you're like, yeah, we should have kept, or, wish we could have found a way to keep them or anything like that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that's the point I'm trying to make, right? Like, it's not like we had to lose somebody that we're like, oh my gosh, and there still are some names that we're waiting to see how those pan out. But we'll just have
honestly,
to wait.
I have to say the biggest loss in my mind so far right now might be Tremont Smith. He was an incredible special teams player for us last year. And I know they just signed, I think, Trent Sherfield, the Vikings wide receiver, to kind of be, I think, really that role, that special teams standout, because that's kind of what he was for them last year. But that might be, I know, and again, they've got Darren Rizzi coming in this year at special teams coach. That's a big deal. But that, I don't know, as I think about it, that might be the biggest departure that I'm like, was he the biggest contributor to our team last year that is now not on the team?
I love it, guys. Jared,
hold on. No. I hope I fixed. Did I fix it?
Yes,
can you hear me?
So good now.
Okay.
So good.
Okay.
Crisp.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah, good. I tried. So no, hold on, David. Did you just say
you heard me
that the biggest loss of the Broncos was a special teams player?
Who do you got, Jared? Who do you got?
I'm going to fly to Denver and we're going to have some words.
Okay.
Words will be had.
Are any of those words going to be Dallas Cowboys running back Javonte Williams? Because
yes, all of them. All of the words are going to be that.
That's
beat
weird.
It into you.
It's weird.
Telling me that a special teams player is a bigger loss than Javonte Williams. Get out of here.
I stand by it.
Well, hey, look, I'm just saying the Broncos are playing the Cowboys this year in Denver. So we will be seeing more of Javonte Williams in Denver later.
Do we have another Jerry Jeudy revenge
game?
I'm
wearing this jersey if I go to that game.
Not a chance. It's not even going to happen. They just lost Zach Martin.
That's true. Yeah. And this man, I don't know, Jerry. This is not a Cowboys podcast. Sean, you have been super patient with us, and we are going to reward you right now. 25 minutes into the podcast, we are going to talk about the re-signing of one Mitchell Frabroni, gentlemen.
Yes.
Long snapper Mitchell Frabroni back for multiple years. The one and only. One of the best long snappers in this league. Everybody's thoughts. We're starting with Spotty.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Jared, over to you.
Yes, great long snapper. Bad at answering DMs on Instagram. That's all I'll say. But
Yeah,
great long
that's
snapper,
true.
and I'm glad that we kept him. Yeah.
Reasonable. Kev,
Yeah.
If we can get him on the show one day, we're going to. That is our goal.
That'll be there.
We will have made it as a
He's in,
podcast
like,
once
DM.
Mitchell Ferboni's on here.
Can you imagine that's the week
I slid.
that Sean doesn't
Slid
show
into
up?
DMs.
Like that's the week that Sean can't do it because
Yeah, Sean just like, oh, I'm busy tonight.
I'm busy
I'll
that
watch
night.
him later and then misses out.
Yup. Oh my goodness. Oh,
So
my
yes, Mitch Ferboni is the highlight name that the Broncos were able to re-sign out of all their players. There are more, and we will talk about them in just a second. But first, guys, remember Breckenridge Distillery 5280 Broncos blend. This stuff is freaking delicious. Make sure you go check out this stuff. If you're in Colorado, they only sell this stuff in Colorado, unfortunately, but for the time being anyway. Go get the blue bottle, orange bottle. They'll come out with their, however they're going to call it next year. The year before that, it was the Champions blend. This year, it's 5280. So we'll see what players they get to help develop the flavors of next year's whiskey. But for the time being, 5280, guys, it's out on the shelves in your liquor store. Make sure you drink responsibly as well. But definitely go check those out. Also, guys, we're here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, even through the off season, talking about different player groups, coaches, news, debunking a lot of rumors and freaking clickbait that's out there. So avoid the clickbait. Just come back here every Tuesday night, and we'll be talking about Broncos football and giving you a little bit of something to talk about football wise as we try to sludge through the off season here. Derek, definitely appreciate it, man. We aim to please. That's our goal here, as always.
Well, I'm a little bit like, let's save it for the after show if we're going to be talking about plugs and pleasing with them. Let's just, let's save it for the after dark show is what I'm talking about. But yeah, was that a rim shot? Was that what that was? Badoo
They're
cha?
really trying to get us a non-family friendly show.
Look,
David's trying to bring us down.
It's the off season. Nobody's watching. Everybody's watching.
Yeah, everybody's watching us tonight. And also huge shout out to everybody tuning in. Definitely glad you're here. We do the show for you guys. This is our 10th season. So we have a ton of giveaways and prizes we're going to be doing throughout the season. Watch out for those announcements. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and all those places. So when we do those giveaways for our 10th season anniversary, you guys are in on it and can enter to win jerseys and hats and other different Broncos prizes as well. Let's talk about the first big signing that the Broncos had of free agency. Talanoa Hufanga, if I said that right.
You did.
Safety, 3-year deal with the Broncos, $45 million. $20 million guaranteed in signing. So a lot of that paid up front there. But guys, initial thoughts on this?
Wait a minute. Hold on real quick. We're going to say, are we going with all new? Because the real free agent signing was DJ Jones.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Spotty,
we'll
I'm so with
re-signings.
you. I'm 100%
I'm talking about players we brought in.
Okay. Because low key.
Low key, not even high key.
We'll talk about him for sure.
Okay.
But David, Talanoa, how you thinking, man?
I love it, guys. It is a low risk, high reward signing to me. Because when you talk about $20 million guaranteed on a 3-year deal, what you're really talking about is a 2-year, $10 million deal. And that for a safety of the caliber, like Talanoa Hufanga has been an all-pro player in this league. He's already shown it. He's done it. So yeah, the injuries are what they are. You've got the ACL tear and then the wrist injury last year. It feels like though that those are not like, those are just kind of freak happenstance injuries. Like these are not the kind, it feels like these are not the kind of thing that is like, oh, this could lead to chronic problems. I don't know. But to me, it's like you are betting on upside and it is not that expensive of a bet right now. So take it, run with it. You have a player who is turning 20, who just turned 25. And if he ends up working out, that could be a really, really steal of a signing. And if it doesn't work out, you didn't pay all that much in the end.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at the Broncos training staff have really helped this team get healthy and stay healthy. And so when you're talking about players that maybe have an injury history, okay, at least they're coming to a place that we've seen be able to manage the players during the season and help them stay healthy. And you look at what the owners do with replacing the field halfway through the season, even though they don't have to, right? All in the name of player safety, player health. So again, yeah, as long as he stays healthy, man, that is something that could really bolster this defense. And one of you guys said in the chat, but I'm just going to repeat it because it's so true. If you think last year's Broncos defense was good, you might be totally blown away by what we see this year.
Low, like 100%, I guarantee you the 49ers would have re-signed him and subsequently the next person we're going to talk about if they had the money to. They don't. If you're looking at how the 49ers offseason is currently going, you're like, man, they're really doing a fire sale. Well, nope, they have the number one paid pass rusher, the number one paid tight end, the number one paid left tackle. They had to get rid of Debo, who was the number one paid wide receiver at one point. If they had the money, they would have re-signed him. The man plays like his hair is on fire. And if you're going to hit ACL tear, okay, I get that. Now he's 2 years removed from that. A wrist injury, the dude still played with a club. I'm a big fan of a dude who's going to play with a club on his hand, okay? And he was an all-pro in 2022 in a defense that was dominant. It's really difficult to be an all-pro in a defense that is totally dominant. And, I mean, you could hate me for saying this, but I think he has shades of Troy Polamalu when he's playing. And if you give me Troy Polamalu in this Broncos defense, I am telling you that every person on the other side of that offensive line has a headache.
Yeah, and honestly, you know that Vance Joseph went to Sean Payton, was like, I want that guy on my defense. Like you know that's what happened. Like there is no way this happens unless that does. And really, what you watch when you're watching, especially his All-Pro year, obviously the injury year, you're not getting a lot of tape on it, but his All-Pro year, I mean, he's just flying up the field. Like he's coming from the safety spot to get negative yards on a run play. Like he is just playing his heart out, and that's the heart of the Broncos defense, is swarm the ball, get as many people there as possible, and do your job. And he's a perfect fit for this defense. And I think as we get ready to talk about Greenlaw as well, they're just perfect fits for what Vance Joseph has for this. And over to your point, Spotty, a little earlier in the show, when you have guys that could do multiple things, you don't have to scheme as many specific type plays. And what you saw towards the end of the season, specifically for our defense, is people started realizing what our weaknesses were. When we don't have as many weaknesses, you can switch up the plays on defense, and those guys can make those plays regardless of what the play call is. And I think that's what Vance is trying to go for. And I mean, we hit a home run. We might not have to draft anything except for maybe a D tackle in this upcoming draft.
And that fit on defense, Jared, I'm so glad you brought up that point, because Hufanga is at his best that player that plays near the box, but also can just create havoc, that can be off of the chain and do what he's going to do back there. And that's what, I mean, he's going to be able to do that in this defense, no doubt. And so, it's going to be really, really, especially in this division. And we'll get to it a little bit more when we talk about Greenlaw as well. But that's going to be really key against some of the pass catchers that he's going to be going up against.
Yeah. One thing that I saw, some Broncos fans out there were saying, man, this is like the next Justin Simmons for us. No. Don't think Justin Simmons. Think Kareem Jackson.
That's right.
Yeah, AJ.
Because
that's right.
100%, we're leaving Brandon Jones to be that ball hawk, to be that guy that's out in the middle of it. Funga, he is going to be the person who's running down the middle, and you're going to be like, what is that flash of lightning in hair? Oh,
right. Do you guys remember last year, especially at the end of the year, when it felt like there was just nobody out there for the Broncos defenders on screen passes sometimes, and the player was 8-10 yards down the field before anybody was even around him? Talanoa Hufanga is going to fix that. That's what you got him in there for. Absolutely.
And another thing I want to say halfway through the show is, isn't it great to finally have a team where people want to go? Yeah. Like we've been so removed from a team that people want to go play for. And both these guys came here, obviously that we gave them some money, but it's not like a ridiculous deal. We're not signing them to something outlandish. We're signing them because they want to come play for Vance Joseph. They want to play for this defense. And I think it's such a great place to be in after the few years that we've had, that nobody wanted to come play for the Broncos. And right. People are starting to see where we're going and what we have building. And it's really nice to have.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And
Yeah,
let's bounce.
big point here.
I'm sorry. And that's awesome, Matthew. You're like, that's really cool to hear too. And man, if he can be that presence, like Spotty was saying, that's going to be a really big deal. And I just I want to bounce right into it, guys. The Dre Greenlaw signing, because I think these guys go in tandem with each other. I think they solve one big problem on the defense together. And we were talking a little bit about how the spine of the defense was a little bit soft at the end of the last year, and especially in the Bills game, I think that got really exposed. And man, Dre Greenlaw helps you out with that. And Nick Kosmider of The Athletic, who's the Broncos beat writer for them, had a really good point in his analysis of these signings, which was that Greenlaw and Hufanga are going to be the guys who you remember the Chargers game? The Broncos were up a lot early, and Ladd McConkey just broke them.
Just demolished us.
Demolished them. And it's because that slot, he has that talent from the slot to just find those open spaces in the middle of the field. You're going to have so many less open spaces in the middle of the field with Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga out there now. That's going to be such a big difference maker against the Ladd McConkeys and the Brock Bowers that you're going to see in this division a lot every season.
Yeah, I mean, when you got Travis Kelce, Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, like you got the tight end powerhouse, and you have a guy that's I think he was the number one in coverage. I want to say I saw something along the lines of like he was the number one in coverage. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but when he's healthy, that guy is a guy that can cover tight ends if you need to. But he's also filling holes. He's filling holes. He's not allowing running backs to get past him, which is just an amazing. Like this is the biggest, absolutely probably one of the biggest signings that we've had in years.
Yeah.
We're making the argument that the Chargers might probably are someone who's looking to potentially have a tight end in the first round too. So this division might become that powerhouse of tight ends. And of course, the Broncos kryptonite for what seems like a whole era has been a tight end. And honestly, Greenlaw might be the best inside linebacker just by pure raw talent that the Broncos have had since
Danny Trevathan.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but Danny Trevathan was even undersized.
Right.
Man.
You're right. He was a good coverage linebacker, but he wasn't
played well
down. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, all these things come with caveats, right? If we were talking about a freak injury when it comes to Hufanga, I think freak injury is really what you're going to be talking about a guy who tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl.
Just running onto the field, just jogging onto the field.
Yeah. And being healthy for most of his career, that's an absolute freak kind of accident. So if now that he's a full year removed, again, just like Hufanga, he's a full year removed from his injury, and he's going to get time to acclimate into this defense. I don't see an injury problem with him, and I think that he's going to really set the tone for our defense, which, of course, has been setting the tone for the last year and a half.
Yeah. Now, interesting point by Matt here. Matt, first-time viewer, thank you for tuning in. Hope we see you back more, after this. Great comments here. Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, both from the 49ers. And if I'm not mistaken, they both have Super Bowl experience too with that, right? They have experience of playing deep in the playoffs. And when you're talking about a young team, that's just they made it rightfully so into the playoffs, but then they got shown very quickly. Playoff football is a totally different level, and you had better be prepared to go out there and play the best teams in the league for a chance at the title. These guys could very well, not just that they know each other, from being on the same team, but they can really help push the whole team to that next level. And help them understand, from what the team just experiences last year to what it's like actually getting to like the conference championship game, even the Super Bowl, what you need to do to get through that and be successful. Right. So that's a very interesting point there, and definitely appreciate it, Matt. But I'd say for that reason, that's another really awesome, just side to the whole signings of those two players.
Andrew's comment there.
Yeah, Jared's talking, but not.
Yeah. Oh
We'll
yeah.
bring this up.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jared.
We like pantomime for him. Like, should we speak for him? He's all like,
yes.
Javonte Williams maybe wasn't that good.
I definitely, I could see him
that's
saying
how I'm
that.
reading his lips.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, man.
and we still can't hear him, so I can only assume that he's saying yes. I agree. I don't even want to spend another second on Javonte Williams because he's not worth talking about anymore. So
moving on.
Yeah.
Anyways, to Andrew's comment, something that I dropped into the chat with the boys a couple of days ago, and I am all about building this defense and free agency. A lot of the big names are where we're going to have to spend a lot of money went early, even before the legal tampering time. So it wasn't even an issue where we were going to have to overpay anybody, but right now we're filling holes on an already impressive defense and not really spending that much cash on it because we can only assume that the cap's going to go up next year, and then we're not paying somebody named Russell, whatever his name is. So 100%, if we can build this team's offense, so give him all the weapons, make sure that the protection is set up, maybe a tight end, who knows, whatever happens in 20. I think that's the best way to go. And I think that will also benefit us in the long run because then we have players 3-4 years down the road that we're not have to worry about setting contracts for.
Yep.
Well,
exactly.
And I agree with the principle of just building the offense through the draft because you've got your quarterback in the draft. And now you can have your offense grow together and learn as they mature together and, have guys that are roughly the same age at quarterback and running back and tight end and, wide receiver probably too. It's a really young wide receiver room too, outside of Cortland Sutton. So yeah, having those players that can grow together that way, I think is a really good way to keep continuity on offense in another way that's not just dependent on coaching, which, we're already kind of, even if Davis Webb leaves, and he probably will at some point, but you still got Sean Payton there at the coaching position. So having that continuity at coaching and having the continuity with the players around you while you build on offense with your young quarterback is just not a bad thing to me.
Yeah. Jared, you want to try again?
I don't know why I still do this. I hate you all.
You did it.
You love us. You love us.
Jared, I don't know what you're talking about. You sound great right now. Well, go on.
Yeah,
thank you. Did I sound like you guys sounded for me talking about how it was a mistake letting Javonte Williams? Anyways, we'll talk about that.
Yep.
I want to mention for Dre Greenlaw, and Kev, you brought up a good point, and Matt over there. A big part about this is we haven't really had a true leader on the defense. Like, obviously, your inside linebackers, your play caller, right? He's got the dot, he's getting the headphone calls in, but having Dre Greenlaw having that experience with what he had in the 49ers, with what he had in his coaching staff, right? He was coached very well over there. I think that's a huge gain to the Broncos defense, specifically in the leadership room, to be able to have that coming in and being able to. We haven't had really since Kezak. We haven't had that raw leader in our defense of like, hey, let's go do it. And we didn't need it last year per se, but it's nice to have. And it's nice to get somebody going like, hey, we need this stop on fourth down. We need this stop on third down. Let's go. Get them excited, get them hyped. And I think that's what we got in both those guys from the 49ers.
Yeah. Totally agreed there. It's going to be fun to watch those guys go out on the field and how they're going to just totally disrupt the other teams. And impact the team that way. That's just to make sure we have time for all of it. Spotty, Mr. DJ Jones re-signing. Over to you, man. What do you think?
Well, first off, he played well for us anyways. And then I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to what the D tackles on the market have been going for this year. It's a lot of fucking money.
It's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
For a guy to eat up space, but we have a proven commodity in what DJ Jones is, and we did it early and often. I know I'm on my high horse when it comes to this, and there's probably no NFL GM or Jerry Jones listening to us, but there is definitely a benefit to signing your own people early, and of course we might touch on this later, or maybe not at all. But Pat Surtain is no longer the highest paid cornerback in the league. the defensive player of the year is no longer the highest paid cornerback in the league, but the Broncos paid him early. And paying DJ Jones, I think and then we can bring in somebody young, a couple of, maybe a pick in. We had in the draft, and to be his backup to hopefully be an upside when he gets on the field, that puts in us a good spot. We're not scrambling. We're not trying to pay a Jonathan Allen $20 million a year. Like, I think it was a very smart idea, not only financially, but knowing what he can do for us. Great A.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, Sean, I completely agree. It definitely reminds me of pot roast. Who can't,
but he's a puzzle piece. He's a puzzle piece for this defense too, and it's a really important one. We talked about the spine of the defense being a little soft, but DJ Jones was an excellent first line of defense against the run last season, and losing him just opens another urgent hole on that defense if you lose him. So bringing him back, having that continuity, like Spotty said, that's super important and hard to overstate. And just miss me. Like, nobody in the chat has said anything about it. I've heard, I just seen some rumblings on Twitter is $39 million in overpay for DJ Jones. And guys, I just don't care. I don't care. I do not care.
I do remember.
No, I mean, they wouldn't pay him like that if they didn't see him as the biggest fit of this defensive line right now as it is. Like, that we're not paying him that money if we don't feel like, especially the Broncos this season, like, we're not overpaying people. Like, that has not happened since we got the new ownership group. Like, we have not overpaid anybody. And I think that this is definitely an asset that the Denver Broncos, and again, going back to Vance Joseph, he went to him, was like, how important is he to your defense? And he's like, he's probably a linchpin, right? Especially in the interior defensive line.
I heard too many times on too many podcasts going into free agency about how DJ Jones would fit on all these different teams, like the Bengals and all these other teams, as a really good run defending player. And no, he's ours. Get out of here.
He's ours. Go away.
Signing might have actually started, because I don't know if after DJ Jones signed it, then BJ Hill re-signed with Cincinnati. So I think even his signing, when you see somebody, I think there was a lot of people out there that were hoping that he would hit free agency, then take more expensive, slightly less than the top guys who are out there, and so that they can save some money. But Jared, to kind of touch on the Broncos are getting rid of a lot of bloated contracts, and I mean we've been developing talent on the team. This is weird, developing talent, really bloated contracts, setting themselves up for. I mean, the Broncos aren't going to be a Super Bowl contender next year, most likely. But after we continue this route, David, don't tell me that David, don't tell
David,
me.
who's usually I'm dead inside before game one even starts, is like, but maybe.
Look, but
David doesn't want to do the show anymore.
We'll talk. Here's what I'll say about that. Just the two moves we've made, the two major moves we've made in free agency, at least tells me that the front office and the coaching staff are aligned on playoff team is the floor right now with this roster. Yes. Getting in and being a wild card team is the floor, and we have ambitions for more. We want to fix the fatal flaws that we saw that kept us from being more last year, because we think we can go further than that with what we have for the most part. That's all I'll say about that.
Also, the power structure in the AFC West is going to make a turn soon.
I think it is. Yeah. I think it is. Mahomes Looks is like still Mahomes, but man, the Chiefs paid I think it's the 49ers backup left tackle to be their starter this year. And I get it, because Ronnie Stanley didn't hit the open market, and I think that's who they really wanted to get in there. But
Tooney.
And then Tooney walked out the door.
Yep.
Tooney's a Chicago Bear now. So
and you got to still think they've got the crazy contract of Chris Jones. Travis Kelce still got to pay a lot of money. They try to keep reconstructing Pat Mahomes' kind of like the Brady situation, reconstruct the quarterback's contract every year, because he's going to make some of this money. Yep. But then they paid Nick Bolton a lot of money.
They did. And, credit to them, because Bolton's a good player. But yeah, now they're looking at another season where it's, maybe Xavier Worthy after his legal troubles. We'll see. maybe Rashee Rice.
Not going to see any time.
Yeah, well,
Nah.
but they didn't get Devontae Adams. Thank God Devontae Adams stayed out of the AFC West because the Chiefs or the chart. Like if he had been on it, I didn't want to see him on the Chargers either. But yeah, I totally think you're right, Spotty. The AFC West title is as up for grabs as it has been, I think, in the last 5 years going into this year. Let's go get it.
Yeah, agreed. Look, we got competition out there, but I still believe that I don't think the Raiders are going to pose too big of a threat. So I think I get Pete Carroll and everything, but
Geno,
I'm still. And Geno.
I'll push back. I think Geno is actually a really good quarterback. I just don't think the Raiders roster is a Geno Smith away from competing for an AFC West title.
Exactly.
That's all.
Exactly.
He has time to throw the football.
Yeah, I get it. No, but I'll also say I think the Raiders offensive line, like in actuality, is better than what they had in Seattle last year. So well, in the pass catchers, you've got Brock Bowers and question mark. But we'll get into that as the season gets a little closer. But I'm a little nervous about the Raiders if Ashton Genty ends up there.
Let's not talk about that until it happens because I don't want to put that in the universe.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. We'll see. Geno's old. Geno's 34. Like, I get it, but that's just not that old in quarterback years anymore. I think he'll be a decent player for the Raiders over the next couple of years. I just don't know if I see the team building plan right now the way they see it more than anything else. But again, this isn't a Raiders podcast, guys. It's a Broncos podcast. No.
Raiders suck. There we go.
Yeah, there it is. All right, somebody had to say it. Yeah.
Say it. I love it.
So last question for you guys before we go into some closing thoughts. And before I do that, guys, once again, remember, this is brought to you by Breckenridge Distillery, 5280 Broncos Blend. Make sure you check this stuff out. Very delicious and tasty. Help you get you through your off season. So last question, guys. Still no news really on Von Miller. And again, not saying that he's going to play for the Broncos, but do you see the writing on the wall that he's going to hang up his cleats, come home to Denver, retire as a Bronco?
Yeah. I mean, if I could see it. I mean, he's going to play it. We're going to see it at the end of free agency what happens. Even if he does come back, we might sign him to a small deal just to have him as on the sideline, not as a coach, but like on the sideline, rotational player type guy. I mean, that's what he was for the Bills. If you're being honest, like last year, he was a rotational guy. He was in there on third downs, like mandatory pass rush. Like that was basically the time you're going to see him on the field. I wouldn't be surprised if we bring him back and he's going to take a hometown discount just because he's always loved the Broncos, regardless of his time anywhere else. He's always been a Broncos lover, and he's definitely going to come back. I see that. I don't know if it's going to be this year, and if it does, it's going to come down to like he needed to sign with somebody and he wanted to play for one more year, and then But I definitely see him come back. I definitely see him come back as like coaching, doing like outside linebackers, doing some sort of camps for sure. Because I mean, he's the one that set up all the camps when he was active.
Yeah. I don't see Von Miller playing another snap as a Bronco. That's just my feeling on it. Like, I don't think the coaching staff that's current here thinks they need Von Miller. And so if Von Miller wants to play this upcoming season, I think it'll be somewhere else if it happens at all. If he does end up retiring, though, like Jared said, there's no doubt in my mind he retires as a Bronco.
Oh, yeah.
Totally agreed.
I'm going to take a slightly different approach to this and maybe a little less popular of one. I'm not sure if I want Von right now on this team. Don't get me wrong. If anybody knows anything about me, I love Von Miller. His birthday's
doesn't sound like it.
His birthday's a couple of days in front of mine, but it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about is we have a youth movement going on with this team right now. And by bringing in Von in situational approaches, you take away those snaps from a Nick Bonito, who's potentially going to see an extension here soon, a Jonathan Coop. We love Ellis. We just think that he needs to see some more snaps. You know that the likelihood of us drafting an edge rusher over the next couple in this draft is probably high because we love to continue to have that depth at edge rushing. And I mean, even oh my gosh, we would just know that the draft is what we're trying to do. There's a slight youth movement that's going to happen to it. Okay, so Vaughn coming in to play situational and hometown discount, I bet you he's still looking first to see if he can get on a contender. And then he would come back to the Broncos. And at that time, I think the Broncos would have moved forward.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it'd be nice if there were 54 roster spots because then maybe Vaughn could have that one, but there's only 53 and
58.
you know, yeah. I see what you did there. Paducha. Look, it's just I don't see a spot for him on the team either. So David's like, I just got it, and I hate you guys.
No, it's not. I can't. I wish we had like a professional editor doing this podcast that could clip you doing that rim shot noise because man, I need that to be a thing in my life. All day, every goddamn day. Boom cha.
It's his new text message ringtone.
Yep.
Anytime I text him, it's just boom cha.
It's the sizzle that you put on the cha that really sells it. Like it's all dumb, but oh man, I love you, Kev Dan, but man, that boy. All right.
Yeah. So you have sizzle, Kev Dan. You got to take that.
Oh yeah, I'm taking that as a compliment. I'm not crying myself to sleep tonight. That's for sure.
No, right.
What was that?
Sorry, calling Kev Dan the Sizzler. You know, there's that kid out there who's popular for the Rizzler. Kev Dan, Sizzler.
The Sizzler.
If I had a theme song, those would be the lyrics.
Wait, hold on. Matthew, just so you know, I am traveling and I had to jump on the podcast. Therefore, I have none of my Broncos gear. And you said you're in Washington, so am I right now.
And to Sean's point, Spotty is in a hotel room and he gets a free pass on the lighting. So that's yeah.
Last question here.
That's not a question. That's a statement.
That is a
statement. I don't like the statement.
So,
Bryson, thank you for your comments. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to keep wearing it. I'm going to wear it to the Broncos game in the Broncos Cowboys game in Denver. I'm going to try my damnedest if I don't deploy here soon. That to get out there and try to make it to that game. So, yeah.
Love it, guys. Well, hey, let's do some closing thoughts around the room before we do that. Once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go away quite yet. We got a few more minutes left of the show, but definitely appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. All the comments, everything. Again, we do this every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We do normally shorter episodes during the off season, but then during the regular season, guys, we got a ton of content for you guys. Make sure you're following, subscribing, liking, so that you can see all of our other little videos we put out throughout the week, and then you're joining us here live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So, Jared, let's start with you, man. Free agency, kind of first couple days behind us. Most of the big moves are done and said with. What do you think, man?
Yeah, a couple things. Obviously, I did my soapbox for Javonte. I am sad to see him go, and I know a lot of people didn't like what he did this last year. I think he was underrated and completely underrated this year in what he did. And I think he's going to go do well in his 1-year deal in Dallas. And, you know, I'm sad to see him go, but I'm happy to see what we've done overall and having the youth movement we talked about on not just on defense, but on offense as well. Having the youth movement, having Estime back there is amazing. We've shored up our defense. Our defense is settled. Like, I think our defense is good. I'd like to see a big defensive tackle in this draft as we get ready to get prepped for the draft. But offense is really where we need to kind of take a look at and figure out what we need to do. And I'm excited to look forward to it. But the Dre Greenlaw is probably the best for me by far. And I get the safety position, huge signing. He's a great player, but Dre Greenlaw is like, I'm an inside linebacker, bro. We've talked about this a couple of times. I love the fact that we got a big inside linebacker that's a captain. And he's going to go out there and he's going to absolutely kill it. And I'm so excited for that. And I'm really excited for this defense going forward.
Love it. Spotty, man, what do you think?
Damn it, I'm excited, man. Like, Not that I could have planned it any better just to tag these spots on the defense. We're talking about inside linebacker and safety, which may not necessarily have been that deep of positions in the draft. The Broncos went after and signed those spots that were like, hey, maybe there's not that in the draft. Maybe there's nothing that we can see that really wows us. Let's sign some wow guys or re-sign the guys that have helped us out. And then now we're sitting back and we've been talking about the Broncos at spot 20. There's not really a draft position that we would necessarily hate. We just would say, hey, there's levels of varying, progress for the team. Well, right now, the Broncos are really leaving themselves open for that best position possible. If that's a defensive tackle, Jared, hell yeah, let's go after it. If that's
Right.
A running back, if that's a wide receiver, obviously, I'm not that big of a fan of a first round, running back, but we are setting ourselves up to sit back at 20, not have to make any drastic moves, not have to give up any draft capital, maybe even potentially give ourselves some draft capital by moving back and still getting our what we want. So the plan that the team is formulating right now has got me excited, not just for the next season, but for the next couple of seasons.
Love it, man. That's a very good way to think about it. And compared to how we've gone into the draft the last couple of years, where we need a quarterback or we need this, we need that. It's not really the situation we're in right now for the most part. David, what you think, bud?
Well, and so I've got a little bit of a different starting place for my final thoughts here. It's just about our audience engagement. And Matthew, it's been so great to have you. First time watcher on this kind of off-season podcast for us. But we've got the regulars in here, as we always do. We've got Sean in here. Keith has been here all day. Clay has been here. Andrew. And so, guys, what I want to do is plug a couple of new segments that I'm mulling over here for the off season. And one of them is, it's obviously about Team Puffball because that's the brand that I think all of the viewers associate with the show most often. I do want to start doing, and guys, make sure you're following us on YouTube because this is where you're going to see this content. I want to start hearing from you guys feedback on a question that I have every single week. Just a thought about the Broncos team, where the roster is. Jared, I see your passive-aggressive use of the visor. That's the only acknowledgement that I'm going to give to it. But what I'm going to do, guys, every week on a YouTube short is I want to ask you guys, the audience, a question that you guys should come to the show with answers on. I want to hear just your thoughts about it. We'll talk about it on the show. No, don't you dare, Spotty. I swear to God, if you had a visor,
travels to Washington
a travel visor.
A
travel visor would have been perfect right now.
That would have been upsetting. Very, very upsetting. So I want that. But guys, also, everybody who's watched this show a lot knows that every single week there are just questions that we don't get to. And it's made because somebody, me, is rambling too far on a certain answer, or we go off on a tangent about how stupid Jared's jersey is, or anything like that. And so that I want to make sure we start doing like a mailbag segment every week where we kind of go over answers that we didn't get to in the podcast, and just really, really briefly. But if you guys are asking questions that you don't see answered on the podcast, we want to make sure that you guys still get your due. So absolutely come back, because that'll be another segment we do every single week, I think. We'll go through the podcast that we just did and answer some unanswered questions that we didn't get to during the flagship show.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. So guys, we got tons of content coming out for you. This is going to be, again, our 10th season. We've been around for a while now through, I would say, through the highs and the lows, but it's just been lows until this last year. So we've been through the lows with you guys, and we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So with that being said, all the prizes and giveaways and just things that we're going to be doing this next year, you're going to want to be staying in tune with us and watching our videos and everything. Come back here. As you can see, we strive to interact with you guys as much as possible. That's what we really built ourselves on, and appreciate everybody tuning in, like David's been saying. But look, here we are, Broncos. I think they made it some very smart moves over free agency so far. I think they're setting themselves up very well to perform well in the draft and get the players that they need. And that's not necessarily something that is out of desperation, but just, hey, let's continue to build this team up. And that's exactly where you want to be the second year in a rebuild. There's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of momentum. Bo Nix is just taking over Broncos country. And it's just so great to see that we have a quarterback that loves the fans, does well, is in tune with the players, doing everything right. And so this is going to be a fun season to cover with you guys. But that being said, yeah, Keith, doesn't feel like it's been 10 years, but that's because all those seasons for like 8 years in a row just kind of blend together. So, but guys, Jared, Spotty, David, thank you so much for helping me out tonight. To everybody who's tuning in, thank you for tuning in. It's been a great show. Get ready as we get close to the draft. We'll be doing some more long, full episodes of Bourbon Broncos and OBS. But otherwise, in the meantime, every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we'll be here for a a la carte version, about 30 minutes long, talking about a specific area of the Broncos. So get ready for it. Guys, I have nothing left to say other than end this as we always do on a very strong Go Team Visor.
Go Broncos.
No, that was bad. Okay, bye guys.
Do what I like, yeah, do what I like, yeah, do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go.